Hey guys, so this is the recap of my last round game here at Aktobe Open, a prestigious, huge tournament here in Kazakhstan with a 100 US dollars prize fund. I'm already back home, spoiler, I flew back home to Almaty, and recording this recap, it's going to be fun, it's going to be an incredible game that I will show you. Both me and my opponent played at more than 90% accuracy. My opponent is a very strong Kazakhstani junior who's called Yedil Kabelbek, and he is rated under 2000, but on the basis of this tournament, he will gain like close to 100 rating points. So he's much stronger than 2000. He's already like 2100 plus strength at least. But of course, I want to play for a win. This is the last round, and I want to finish on a high note, even though the tournament still was quite successful for me. Yes, I got some painful losses, but I already gained like more than 25 rating points. So let's see about the last game. I prepared, oh well, I prepared for 4 hours. I prepared a new opening, completely new opening. I will show it to you later because some of my opponents watch this channel. But I prepared the new opening that starts with d4. And let's have a quiz, guys. Let's let's have a quiz. Who can guess the opening that I prepared? It's not impossible, I think, to guess, but still, I don't know. I'm interested if you can guess it. So I prepared some opening against knight f6 and d5 that I was supposed to play. But he was very surprised after one d4 because I never played d4. In all my tournament games, my first move is e4. All my life I've been playing e4, like Robert James Fisher, but but I'm a much worse chess player. So I surprised him with d4, and he was like, what do I do? How do I surprise him back? And he surprised me back. He went d6, and I was like, oh man. So of course there are ways to play this like a d4 opening, for example. I can play c4, and if he goes, for example, knight f6, go knight c3, and if he goes g6, then this is the King's Indian defense. But I like playing it with black. Probably I can play it with white as well, but I decided, you know what? Since he went d6, I can transfer back into one e4, because I like playing against one d6. So it is the same as if I played one e4 and he goes d6. This is the Pirc defense. The Pirc, different people call it differently. And usually what black does here, so we get the same position, d4, d6, e4, with just a move order transposition. And usually people with black play here g6, then they play bishop g7. This is exactly what I play very often. Then they develop the knight here, castle here, go c5, go a6, b5. Sometimes they go c6, b5. It's the modern defense, the Pirc defense, different names, but very sharp defense. I played one of my craziest games in my life in this very same tournament with the black pieces in the modern in a similar position. You can check it out. I sacrificed all my pieces. So I like this with black, but I also like this with white because it's a very double-edged position. I love attacking, and I love attacking with both colors. So with white, with black, doesn't matter. So I was prepared for this. Obviously, I know this opening pretty well with white and black. I'm used to playing this, and here he suddenly decided to surprise me. So all my prep went out of the way, but I will use it someday in my next tournaments. I will be playing one this month. I will tell you about it later. So I go knight c3, and I'm expecting g6, and then he goes e5, and I'm like, man, this is not what I know. This is not something theoretical. Unfortunately, like this is the trick that he played on me, and now like probably he's in the driver's seat because he definitely has been playing this. Probably in Blitz, because I haven't found his games in this opening. In Classical, I would have seen them. But definitely in online Blitz, he has some accounts where he plays this opening. And I know it exists. It's actually not that bad. So the best... there are two ways to proceed. Knight f3 is number one. And after knight bd7, bishop here, and bishop e7, we get the so-called Philidor defense. So this is one way to proceed. Another way to proceed is to trade. And I think that this is the more principled move. So I decided, okay, I'll trade and go into an endgame with him. And some people played this against me in online blitz, and I remember I never really knew what to do. So supposedly white should be better here because he has lost his castling rights. His king is a little bit clumsy here on d8. I will be able to castle, and probably I should be better. Also, I'm the first one to make a move. I'm white. So yeah, but turns out it's not as trivial. For example, if bishop c4, many opponents against me play this bishop e6 and even spoil their pawn structure. And even this is considered okay for black. And if black knows what he or she is doing, black can get a better position because white never knows what they are doing. They're like, okay, black has doubled pawns. What next? So yeah, there is theory here. I don't know this theory because nobody plays this against me in classical, and in blitz I just play whatever I think is correct. But once upon a time I checked what I should play in this position, like with an engine, after I think losing a game with white in this position. And I remember that f4 is a good move here. Actually, it's like one of the top engine recommendations. And this is like the only thing that I knew about this position. And I'm like, okay, I'll play f4. It's like the king's gambit without the queens. I like the king's gambit, so why not? Maybe these structures would be familiar for me. I was hoping that this would be the case. So he went bishop b4, pinning my knight. And the problem in many of those variations is the fact that this pawn on e4 is very vulnerable. And so this knight is pinned, and on the other hand, his king is out of the way, and this would not be a pin if he goes knight c6, if he decides to go here. And sometimes black goes there and attacks the pawn, and black gets some counterplay. That's annoying, really annoying. Currently, not only is he threatening to spoil my pawn structure, which I would be fine with, because I would get two bishops in a rather open position. I think I should not be afraid of him taking, but he's threatening to take this pawn, and that's a problem. For example, if I take here, he takes here, and black is already better because this is under pressure, and yeah, it's not good. So bishop b4, good move, top engine choice in this position. I go bishop d3, which looks logical, like it's the only way to defend this pawn. So obviously I do this. He goes knight d7. He wants me again to take, and then he takes with this knight, and this is a great outpost for the knight. So in this position already black is, I think, strategically better. Maybe the engine says it's equal, but strategically, I cannot kick this knight away. There are no f or d pawns to kick this knight away from e5. So this knight is very strong on e5. And I do not have my outpost like this, because if my knight, even if the king moves away and my knight goes to d5, it's not an outpost. It can always be kicked. So strategically, black is already like taking over. But of course, I cannot take this. Well, I can, but I will not do this. I will not help him develop his knight. Instead, I go knight f3, putting more pressure on e5. And I want him to take and help me develop my bishop. That would be better for white. Obviously, he also doesn't do that. Also, I sometimes have ideas of knight g5, putting pressure over here, using the fact that his king moved one square. So that's the meta. According to the engine, this is the best move, activating the rook, and I was anticipating it, but he decided to go h6. Because he probably was afraid of knight g5 in some variations. Here is around here is where he started thinking, taking time, so his prep probably ended here. And you know what? h6 turns out to be an inaccuracy. Suddenly I can get some advantage if I play correctly in this position, which I unfortunately did not do, which is a pity. I calculated the variation that I was supposed to play here. So the variation is takes knight g4. That's what I calculated. The problem is now he wants to take this pawn. So of course I want to go bishop f4. Like currently it is 2 times defended, 2 times attacked, but he can add the third attacker, rook e8. And now what do? And I thought that the problem is that if I castle on, he has knight f2 with a fork, winning some material. Actually, the engine even says that knight d5 is okay for me, even though I lose an exchange, which is crazy. Wow, because there are some lines like bishop e5, knight g5. Wow, I didn't think of that. So if he takes, I take, and his king is in trouble and white is winning. So yeah, but apparently instead of knight f4, first you should take and then go knight f2 and knight f2, and then black is better. Yeah, so something like that. So I didn't like in this position. I had it in my mind and I thought, what do I do? Like this pawn is hanging. If I castle here this way, then he has this. Very annoying. If I go here, he has this check, and I will have to give up the rook for the knight. So I cannot castle short. I cannot castle long. What do I do? Turns out there is one move that gives white a good advantage. Rook d1. Instead of castling, just put pressure on the d file. And I just did not think of this move from afar. So I was thinking in this position whether to take on e5 or not. And I missed this rook d1 idea. Otherwise, I would have gone for it. But okay, I just castled. Also a normal move. He goes rook 8. Again, same plan. And here, I thought for some time, the position is balanced. Like a tiny, tiny advantage for white. And I go wrong here. I go knight takes e5. And the problem is that I missed his resource here. So he takes, I take back. And I thought that he'll go, if he goes here, for example, then I have rook takes f7, obviously. And if he checks me, like this, I have this move. And yes, he can take on h2, but then I go here, and actually I'm much better in this position. So I saw this, but I completely forgot about the fact that he does not have to go here first. I thought actually that he'll just take with the rook, and I'll go here, winning a tempo. He'll move the rook somewhere, maybe like back, and then I have a great advantage. Actually, I can even take this pawn because this knight should be protected by the pawn. So white is much better here. But turns out that he's not obliged to take here. He can first check me. I forgot about this idea. And then go knight g4. And the problem is that now I cannot take on f7 because he'll check me. So here, I cannot go here because that would be a discovered check. So I would have to give up the rook for a knight, and black is better. I have a knight and a pawn for a rook, but those pawns are weak. Yeah, maybe they are also somewhat strong in the fact that they are central pawns, but still black is playing for a win in this position. So of course, after knight g4, I cannot take on f7, and I have to protect. I have to defend against this threat of discovered checks. So I have to go h3. Now if he checks me, I just go here, and he has nothing. So he takes the pawn. And I go bishop f4, trying to kick him away from this square, and the position is around equal. Maybe it's even black who's a little bit better due to this strong outpost on e5. He just goes f6, reinforcing this. And yeah, my pawn is backwards. And I'm feeling that I need to create counterplay, because otherwise strategically he's better. The engine thinks for some time and says, okay, it's close to equal, 0.0, but that's because I have the time factor on my side. Because look at his king, it's still in the center, but the problem is not that it will get checkmated, even though there are some ideas to do that for white. But the problem is this rook, it's not in the action, it's not like joining the action. This bishop also, he is lagging behind in development, and the king, the fact that it's not castled, the main problem is not that the king is in problem. The problem is with the rook. The rook is not getting activated too fast, and you will see this motif in this game. So first of all, I go rook d1. I threaten some discovered checks like this, for example. So he has to do something about this. He blocks the d file for me not to harass him like that. And now I go bishop e2, just sidestepping and putting pressure over there. He goes king c8, sidestepping also the pin. And now I go rook d5, active move, attacking the bishop, also putting pressure on this knight. He goes back. And now I go knight b5. You see, all my moves are active and all my moves are moving forwards. This is how you should play chess. Like, this is proper knowledge of basic chess principles. Especially if you have the time on your side. I'm not speaking about the time on the clock of the opponent, even though that's also important. But the time factor, like if I give him several moves in a row, if I just shuffle my king back and forth here, he has like, I don't know, a6, then king b8, then king a7, and then bishop e6, kicking my rook, the rook moves back somewhere, and then he activates this rook, and he's better. It's minus 0.5, because he has used the time that I gave him for free to activate his pieces. And now strategically he's much better because, as I already told you, this square is like very important, belongs to him, and this pawn is weak for me. So I have time on my side because he would need 1, 2, 3 moves to coordinate his pieces. Or if he goes b6 and king b7, 2 moves. But that does not work because bishop a6 is a check. So he would need 3 moves to do that. And I need to act fast, and I need to make active moves that create threats, because he's playing down a rook currently. His rook is in the corner, it's not participating. He's like down a rook temporarily. So I go knight b5. I create a threat of taking his bishop and then taking a pawn. He takes, I take. Now there is some imbalance on the board. I have the 2 bishops advantage, and I'm still attacking him. His rook has to move. It moves one step up. Now I drop back because I anticipate the c6 move in future, and also I want sometimes to transfer my bishop here. So he goes knight f7. He wants just to trade this bishop of mine and then plant the knight on e5, and that will be a perfect example of a good knight versus a bad bishop. So when the bishop cannot touch the knight because it's on a dark square. So for example, if I do nothing again, takes, knight e5. And black is better because this knight will never be harassed, it will never be in trouble here. So of course I do not allow that. I do not go king g1 in this position, not a good move. Instead, there are even ideas for me to blow open the center. I briefly even considered e5 pawn sacrifice. Actually, it doesn't work, but in some variations it's very good. So for example, if he takes with the bishop, I have bishop g4 check, and he goes here, I take here. And if he takes with the knight, this will be a checkmate. If he takes with the rook, I will infiltrate like this, and he's in deep trouble. He's up a pawn, but his knight cannot move away from the defense of this square because that would be a checkmate. So that's very, very nice. And like if he takes, actually I first checked him, which is practically the same thing. And then I also considered e5. So if he takes with the bishop, it's bad. He will lose. If he takes with the rook, then I win his rook for the bishop, also bad. If he takes with the pawn, I can just drop back, and I've sacked a pawn, and the position is good for me, actually, better for me, according to the engine. Of course, I didn't know this at the time, but I felt that I have compensation, great compensation. His bishop is like very stupid. His knight no longer has this e5 square, very important. And I have pressure on his king, and I can probably rook lift, for example, and create some threats against him, and he's still playing down a rook. So that's what I was calculating for a long time. I was calculating e5 here. But at the end of the day, I decided that he can take with the knight, and I did not see any good moves for me in this position. And the engine agrees. The engine says black is better. Even though not so much better, because this rook still needs time to join the action. But unfortunately, I cannot sacrifice the pawn right now, so I go rook fd1. I sacrifice a bishop, but he cannot take the bishop. If he takes, he's getting checkmated like this. So nice checkmate. Of course, he sees that. He's a strong player. He does not take. Instead, he goes a6, creating luft for his king. Now he is threatening to take. Now there's no longer a checkmate threat. So I have to do something about it. And of course I can trade. But then there is the same problem, and that he will rotate the knight to e5. He will go king a7. He will connect the rooks, and he will play a much better and easier to play position for him, because his knight is better than my bishop. Also, my bishop is not so good because it doesn't have too many targets in his camp. So that's the problem. Here, pawns, for example, are on dark squares, and my pawns, lots of them are on light squares, which is also bad for having a light square bishop. So yeah, strategically not so good. So after a6, I do not trade. I decide to sacrifice a pawn, and I go bishop e3. Actually, one of the top engine recommendations. I'm really proud of some decisions in this game. So I decide to give him this pawn. He can take, of course, but I just draw back. And look at this bishop. And look at this bishop. And now there are 2 bishops on an open board, which are usually worth at least a pawn. And his rook is still in the corner. Look at this rook. It's not like, it cannot even go here because it will get taken. And the king cannot escape to provide room for the rook because the bishop is like a sniper, seeing everything. So he has problems with development. And around here is the time where he thought for like 30 minutes. But he came up with the correct plan. Kudos to him. So first he went knight e5, activating the knight, putting pressure on the bishop, very logical move. I go bishop e5, harassing his rook. He goes here, attacking my knight, my bishop. I go here. I still control this diagonal, and I feel confident in my position. During this game, I was feeling like I should be maybe not winning, but I'm the one playing for a win because of my piece activity. And I felt that he's not comfortable with his position. He thought for, again, a long time here and went a5, which is never a good move. Maybe it's a good move here, but it's never a good sign. If you just move your pawn one square, a6, and now you move it a5, you wasted a tempo. So it's like a small concession for him. But the problem is I cannot utilize the fact that his king and rook are so clumsily placed. I would have loved for my pawn to jump to c5 immediately. That would have given me a win. For example, if I go c4 and he does not take me, but instead goes like h5, I go c5 and I'm winning. Well, close to winning. I have a very, very dangerous attack. So that's my idea. But of course, I need to prepare c5, so I go b3 first. He goes a4. He desperately is trying to activate his rook, actually top engine move. I go c4. I want to push c5. He goes rook a6, activating the rook. I push c5. He goes bishop e7. And somehow here I panic. I did not find the correct continuation. The correct continuation would have been, by the way, c6. c6 is threatening rook d8 with checkmate. For example, if he goes like, I don't know, rook a5, nothing move. Rook d8 takes, checkmate. Because the king cannot escape again, my bishop is a sniper, very dangerous. So c6 is interesting. But what if he takes with the knight, then rook d7, infiltrating, and turns out my attack is like crushing. Like he cannot do too much. Interesting, I didn't think of this. I thought that he can just take with the rook or with the knight, but yeah, if he takes with the rook, of course, rook d8. I forgot about this. So I thought he'll take with the knight. But turns out, yeah, rook d7. Wow, nice. And if he takes with a pawn, then again, there is a beautiful checkmate. Check. If he goes here, check. And if he goes here, this is a discovered check and mate. Again, due to the powerful bishop on g1. So I should have gone, I don't know why I didn't go c6. Something glitched in my mind, and I decided to go for another idea, similar one. Sacrificing the rook, checking him like this, and then c6 with a discovered check. But this is the wrong move order, because now he has rook b6. He can sack the rook, and that's the problem. Of course, if he goes there, then my position is great. I can go rook c8, that's what I calculated, and take this pawn and then just demolish him. But I completely neglected this move. I saw it from afar, but I thought that I should be better here, but I'm not better. I'm worse here already. So I take first this pawn, I take this rook with the bishop. Now I regain the exchange, but I'm still down a pawn because before that I had sacrificed a pawn, and he's much better in this endgame. His knight is very nice. His king is closer to the center than my king, which is important for endgames. And he has an extra pawn, which will soon become a passed pawn. So I take his pawn on a4, he takes back, I take his rook, he drops back, and he also finds this knight's maneuver. Now he wants to go c5, and I cannot even harass this pawn because this rook will defend it. And the rooks belong behind passed pawns. That's the rule that Zygmunt Tarash, a famous chess player of the past, invented. So if he puts the rook here and starts pushing the pawn, I'm cooked. He has a passed pawn, and I also have a passed pawn of mine, but it's not too dangerous. He's stopping it with all his pieces. And his nice knight is such a monster, such a great outpost for it. And my king is so far away. And my bishop is like useless here. What is he doing? Okay, I go king h2. I try activating my king. I want to create some counterplay with the king, maybe go like this. But I cannot even infiltrate. I don't know what I want to do. Maybe I want to go here. I want to join the action. In any case, moving the king was the right choice here, according to the engine as well. But the engine thinks more and more and more, and it likes even more black's position. It says black is close to winning. in this endgame. Black goes c5. Now again, his plan is to go here. I try to stop it. I check him for some time. Now the engine says I should trade the rooks and go into this endgame, but it's still very close to losing. Probably it's losing with best play, and I have no counterplay. He'll just move the king forward. He pushes the pawn. Probably he will try to dislodge my my knight, my bishop that would be trying to hold on here. I would have gone with the king to try to hold on to the bishop, but then my a2 pawn would be weak also, and the knight can jump into attack, and I can never create any counterplay over here. Also, I'm down a pawn on the king side as well, and my queen side passed pawn is not good enough, and he has a very strong passed pawn on the queen side, so probably I would have lost if I went for this. So I decided not to trade the rooks. Instead, I went rook c8. Rooks belong behind passed pawns. That goes for any rooks. Your rook or your opponent's rook as well. It's best to be behind. It's better than being here, because here the rook is not so menacing as it is here. So rook c7, he again tries to force a rook trade or to support the pawn. I check him. And I go rook b5. I maneuver back a little bit. At least there is a small moral concession of his that his king is a little bit further from the action, cut off from the b file. But he goes c4, pushes my bishop back. And now he again insists on a rook trade. He does not want to be cut off with the king. I check him and I go back. And my plan is to try pushing my own pawn. At least that's what I can do. The only thing I can do. The only resource I have. You need to use your resources in chess. So that's the desperate resource I go for. And spoiler alert, it was a good decision. So let's see. King c5, he goes closer to the center. The position is completely winning for black with precise play. I go a4, I desperately push my own pawn. He goes here, infiltrating, very good move. Also putting pressure over here potentially, and my bishop has to move. Now g6, another great move by my opponent. Now my bishop no longer has any good squares on this diagonal to prevent the pawn from marching. So if I go here, for example, he goes king d4, winning another tempo, and my bishop will have to move away again. So I do not go here, I do not give him time. I'll go bishop e6, only logical move. And here he goes c3, and I go, oops, sorry, I have pressed the wrong button. This is the position. He goes c3. I go rook c8 check. He goes here. And now I push a5. And I'm dreaming of a position like this. Takes. Because this is a position I can hold. This is probably closer to a draw. Because 3 versus 2 with just rooks on the board is a draw. With rooks and bishop and the knight, probably there are not too many, but some chances to play on, but his pawns are not that dangerous and he doesn't have any passed pawns. Most likely I will give up the bishop for one pawn if there is one pawn remaining, and at the end of the day we will play a rook and knight versus rook, which is quite an easy draw, but still he would have played on. But of course he doesn't want to take my a pawn to give me his c pawn. He doesn't. Instead he checks me like this. And I cannot take his knight because this is a pin. I go king g3. And this is the point where he makes a mistake. A mistake that turns his position from winning into a drawn one. The winning move here is knight g5, attacking my bishop. And the problem is that if I just push the pawn, for example, disregarding the bishop, and go here, he has this move. And if I queen, he takes, and he just goes c2. And this is winning for black. If I go here, he'll block with a knight and queen. So my only logical move is rook a1. But he can just go king b3, king b2, and my king is not in time to join the action, so I will have to give up the rook for a pawn, and he's winning. So he should have found this. Instead, we were both low in time already. And instead of going here, he went here. He decided he'll take this pawn with check and attack me. But here I have a6. He checks me, I go here. And the problem is he cannot stop my pawn with the rook because the bishop is a sniper that's seeing this pawn. And now suddenly I'm like, am I winning? Like I have 2 minutes on the clock, he has 30 seconds on the clock, I cannot calculate everything. But I'm like, am I winning? I'm definitely playing for a win now. I want to push the pawn and promote. How is he stopping it? He has some checks. Okay, check. But now he finds a good resource. He goes c2. And now a3 is available to him. So he's given up the knight and he's given up this pawn to take the pawn of mine. And now he's playing for a draw, but he found this resource. And unfortunately, if I go a7, he goes here, and if I queen, he takes, and I need to stay here to guard this pawn. So the best move that I can do is here, check. He has to go here. Now I can queen, because takes. If he goes queen here, I have this check, winning the queen back. And this is the position that we could have gotten, which is a draw. Because this bishop is of the so-called wrong color. This is the dark squared h8 square. And the bishop should be dark squared to win this position with the h2 pawn. Even if I win all his pawns, if he gets with the king here, it's a draw, theoretical draw. Study your endgames if you want to find out more. But yeah, it's the best that I can get here. So instead, I quickly, in my head, I will not pretend to have calculated all this variation. I quickly, in my head, just saw that he goes rook a3, and he most likely will give up the knight and take my pawn. And I did not like it. So I've decided to go in this position instead of a7, to go for rook c4, to have a trap. I thought that if he goes here, trying to play for a win with rook c3, trying to queen, I have a7. And if he goes here, now I can actually just queen. And if he queens, I'm checkmating him. This is what I saw, actually. I calculated this. And there is a checkmate in a couple of moves here. Queen here, checkmate. And his queen does not help him. This is what I briefly calculated in just like 1 minute. So, nice trap, I think. But after rook c4, there's a problem. He's not obliged to go here. It is one of the ideas. It's very logical to go interpose with rook c3 and push the pawn. But he correctly evaluates the position as losing for him. And he goes instead king b5. Because he needs to take this pawn. This is the most important thing in his life currently. He doesn't care about this knight. He doesn't care about his pawn. He cares about my pawn, taking it. And I cannot, unfortunately, do anything about it. I go a7, and now he goes rook a3. And his rook is taking this pawn. And it's a draw. I takes. And thankfully for him, he has rook e7, a very clean move. Pinning my bishop. I have to go rook e2, and now he goes here. And if my bishop moves out of the way, then he trades the rooks, and it's a theoretical draw, as I told you already. So I have to move the bishop, unfortunately. We trade, we make a couple of more moves. And in this position, it's a draw. We don't even agree to a draw. It's a draw by rules of chess, because one bishop cannot checkmate one king. So, crazy game. I wanted to win. I could have lost. So overall, I'm not too sad about it. About the draw. Overall, I gained 25 rating points on the basis of this tournament. Not a bad result, could have been better. I drew the tournament leader, for example, and I was winning against him at some point. But I'm confident that my chess is growing, is getting better. People around me, my coach also are telling me the same. So it's a good sign. At the end of this month, I'll play another tournament. And for the time being, I'll get some rest and work on some great podcasts for you guys. Please drop a comment. 1. Which chess opening, starting with d4, do you think I'm going to unleash on my next opponent? And 2, whom would you like me to invite on the podcast? See you in the next one, guys. Bye-bye.